Thanks for coming back to the screen. We're going to talk now about business operations. We're going to roll this all the way into lunch at 12 o'clock. Some of it does get a little bit repetitive at times, so if you think, if you're starting to glaze over, let me know. But I try to add in the stories, and again, I apologise to speak so much about mowing or cleaning, but I try to add in the stories so that it gives you some real life examples of what we've all been through over the years. Business operations, what is it? It's the daily activities that you complete in order to conduct your business to make a profit. That's basically as simple as that. You generate a reoccurring income. By doing that, you increase the value, your business assets. Again, that speaks to the point of some of you have purchasing clients or splits, established businesses. The more clients that you have and you are able to put into a split and sell on, the greater the value of your business may be. My husband has sold 4 splits over the time, taken a larger piece of business and broke it into 4 chunks that were easier to sell. That was the way it worked for him. You can secure an income through the value of your business. So these are some of the key things. Basically income or revenue, sometimes the wording gets a little bit confused. Revenue is your top line. Revenue is how much money you bring into your business. That's the total amount of money you make into your business. The income is what drops out the bottom. That's what you end up with as your income, as your wage or your salary, or what's going to be your earnings for the year. To generate the revenue, we need to provide our services. So whatever our services are going to be, we go off, provide the service, whether it's pool care, installing an antenna, or car detailing, fencing, whatever, you're going to provide that service. The best way to generate your revenue is to fully work out your business plan and your business model, which we're going to talk about after lunch. So we sort of put that on hold until after lunch. But you'll have your business model that's telling you what type of clients you're going to go after, and based on that, you would have a budget that will tell you how much money you need to make from those clients in order to make your world continue to be the way you want it to be. And I call that your magic number. Everybody's going to have a magic number at the end of today that you know you will need to earn to make sure that your business floats, works or succeeds. Right? The way we make our income in gyms, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes relies really heavily on the type of leads that you get, and then it relies on your ability to convert that lead into the sale, generating a profit. Right? So one of the first things we do to earn our income is when we start day one, if we have a blank business, a vacant territory, and we start day one, we don't have any clients, we're going to turn our leads on in our gyms online. We're going to be on our all areas, and we're going to wait, literally sit there and watch for that text to ping through on our phone, because we've all seen what a lead looks like. And when it happens, we're going to get the lead on our phone that's going to say Nicole Wood, 50 Smith Street, Brunswick, telephone number, email address, and clean regular. So I've rung the call centre, I've put in an inquiry for a regular clean. Your name has come up in the queue. I may be in your territory, or you may have just been switched on all areas and you are the next person in the queue to receive a lead, and that lead's gone out to you. And what are you going to do the minute you receive that lead? You are going to ring them. You're not going to think, oh my God, I'll just leave it there for an hour, because if you do that, it is most likely that person has now shopped around to another provider because they were told they were going to get a call back from somebody from gyms, and that person has hung up the phone and thought, they may have left 5, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and you haven't called back in that time. They're going to start shopping around. So my greatest piece of advice to you can be very quick when you receive your lead. And in some instances, if you are a confident person on the phone, and if you are not going to be hindered by loud machinery that may cause you to miss your phone ringing or you can't feel it vibrate in your pocket or whatever, then if you're a person who is not going to have those outside influences affecting you, you can have what's called call transfer, and you can have that lead go directly through to you from the call centre. They'll call you and put the lead straight through to your phone so you can actually speak to the client immediately. Now, we know, our statistics tell us that people who do that have a higher chance of converting the lead. So be mindful of that if you're good on the phone. If you're not good on the phone and you're going to have to really think, right, I've got to get my notepad and pen and prepare myself to call this person, sometimes call transfer might not work necessarily for you. But have a think about whether you want to do that. So nevertheless, a lead has pinged through in your text message in your phone. You've called the number. One of the things that I will first do is I will make sure that when I've read my lead, I know what they're looking for. Whether they're looking for a regular clean, a vacate clean, an end of lease clean, builder's clean, whatever it might be. So when I call them, I'll say, you know, hi, this is Nicole from Jim's Cleaning. I've just received your lead from our call centre. I can see you're looking for a regular cleaning service. And that will be my first standard line. Now, what I'm doing when I say that, and this goes back to, at the very beginning of our chat today, I talked about know, like and trust. What I'm doing at the very beginning is I'm also listening in on that call to hear what background noise is going on. So just say that call has come to me, that lead was put in and it's come through to me at 8:30 in the morning. I won't delay calling, I will call at 8:30 in the morning, but I'm conscious that people may be getting in their car to go to work, or they may have young children they're about to drop off at childcare, or other stuff is going on at that time, that it's often a busy time for people. So if I make that call and I hear children in the background and maybe driving or something, I'll say, oh, I can hear the kids in the background. Have I called you at a bad time? Are you on the way to school drop-off or something? Would you like me to give you a call back? Now, instantly, people say, that would be fantastic. I'm just about to drop the kids at childcare. Yeah, getting a call back would be great. I would then say to them, are you going to be back in the car alone at like, say, 9:15, or is there a better time? And if they say 9:15, yeah, that's good, I call them at 9:15. I hang up the phone and I actually set my alarm clock for 9:12. That's going to then ring me, buzz me. I'm going to have the alarm go off, and at 9:12 I'm like, okay, I've got to call this client back. And I'll call right on 9:15. My experience, and I have done that a lot, my experience is that when I call them back, I've already got the job. They already think she is switched on, she gets it, I've got the job. Absolutely on time, to the minute, on time. I'm super punctual, on time, right? So when I make that call back, the first thing I'll say is I won't ask, so what do you need done? I'll say, oh, how'd you go? Did the kids get off to school okay? What am I doing? I'm making her feel like she knows me. I'm making her like me, and I'm making her feel like she can trust me because I've just called her back on time. So those things are really, really important. Know, like, trust. That is your goal. So now that I've called her back, how are the kids? They're at school, all good, great. Okay, well, let's get on with it then. I know you've got to get off to work. What is it that you are looking for? You're wanting a regular clean. What is it that you need from me? Because I'd like to come and provide a quote to you. When do you think you'll be home? She might say, oh, look, I just want a quote over the phone. That is my instant, ugh. I don't want a quote over the phone, all right? There are some circumstances you can, like car detailing, I believe. I don't know a lot about car detailing, but car detailing, I believe there are set prices for different size cars. You know, if you've got your Mazda CX-9, it's a large all-wheel drive, the set price is whatever it is, $99 or whatever. That's easy to give them a quote over the phone, but when you are going into somebody's home, you don't know how dirty it is, you don't know what standards it's at, you don't know. At this point in time, she's told me she wants a quote over the phone. She hasn't told me if she's got 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 5 living areas, an office, a bungalow out the back. She hasn't told me any of that. So I can't possibly give her an accurate quote over the phone. So the first thing I'm going to say to her is, look, unfortunately, I'm not able to give you a quote over the phone, because if I give you a quote over the phone, knowing nothing about your property, I'm going to probably quote on a higher side, which might put you at a bit of a disadvantage, and it's not going to give you an accurate quote. So for your sake, I think it would be great if you could just allow me to come into your home. It's only going to take 5 minutes, and I'll pop in any time that suits you. You know, if you want to do school pickup this afternoon and then you're going to be home after that, or if you've got kids' sports on, I can come at 7 o'clock if you want. I live around the corner. Now, I might live 35 minutes away, but I'm going to say I only live around the corner. Okay? I can be there any time, whatever time suits you. Right? So, usually, in my experience for me and the way I quote and the way I handle it on the phone, I will get that client to let me come into their home to quote them. And this is something that a lot of my franchisees debate and argue with me, and they say, I can't, I didn't get a chance to go and do a quote. Now, again, this comes back to being coachable. I believe that they have not handled the call correctly in the first instance, and that's why they're not able to get into that home to quote. Now, again, I won't lie, I have had an experience where I've rung somebody, I've said all of those things, and they've said, nah, I just want a price over the phone. There is no way they're going to let you in the house, and they're just shopping around for random prices. So,
rather odd though that people don't want you to come to their house to quote it. It's like, how am I going to get it to clean it?
yeah, yeah, it's completely, it's absolutely ridiculous.
So what do you do in that scenario?
So then what I do is I give them a range, and I tell them that this range can be altered when we arrive to see your house. If you book us in, the range is going to be $350 to $450. That's the range. When I come to do the job, I'll review the property and I'll provide you with a quote that you'll need to agree to before I start the work. Okay? You are, but you're trying to protect yourself. Now, depending on how aggressive this person is on the other end of the phone, depends on how big my range gets. Because sometimes if they're so adamant they don't want me to come into their house to quote, beware. Something's going on in there and you're going to walk into crazy town, you know. And it might be something you choose, you might hang up that phone and you might choose to not do that job anyway. It might not be something that's going to work for you. And you think, you know, $13 lead fee, whatever, that's fine, but I'm not going to move forward and do that. Okay? So your goal is to get into the house so that you can provide an accurate quote. And that's how you're going to get your revenue, or you're going to start to build your business. Now, if you are in an area like the pool guy or the antenna guy, then you don't need to enter somebody's house. So sometimes you can say, look, I've got your address, understand you're not home, but is the back gate open? I can pop in and have a quick look at the pool while you're not home. And some people say, yeah, that's perfectly fine, that's great. Ask if they've got a dog that's going to come and rip your arm off before you do that. But, you know, some people will be completely fine with that. Some people, if it's just a short, quick mowing job, you can say, you know what, I'm working on a house 2 doors down tomorrow. I can pop in, I can look at it at about, let's say roughly 9:30. I'll shoot you a text, and if you reply within half an hour, put that criteria on it. If you reply within half an hour, I'm going to be next door, so I'll pop back and I'll do the mow for you then. You've given them a quick text quote, you know, backyard only, just mow, trim the edges, blow the leaves off, $45. You're working next door anyway, no drama, easy. Okay. A lot of people will say things to you like, oh, it's just a standard garden. There's no such thing as standard. It's just a usual, very clean 3-bedroom house. Everybody's definition of clean is different. My 13-year-old son's definition of clean is really different to mine.
And if it's clean, why do you ask to get unclean?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, you can sort of get a feel, you can get a bit of a vibe on the phone for who's sort of switched on. You know, there are some people who will talk about it and say that, Yeah, I've got 3 rooms of carpet that need to be steam cleaned. There is a massive stain under the dining table. It's been there for 3 years. I don't know what it is. And at that point you can say, well, my standard price for 3 standard rooms for carpet steam cleaning is X amount of dollars. However, I can't quote on that stain until I get there. I can't guarantee I can remove the stain, and I may need to use a blah, blah, blah treatment, which that treatment alone is $82. And if I have to use that, that's going to add to the price. And they'll say, just come, I just want that stain out of there. When you arrive, and you say to them, yeah, that stain's bad, I'm not going to be able to remove all of it, but I'm going to give it the blah blah treatment and it's going to be this amount of money, get them to agree to that and get them to acknowledge that you may not be able to, despite them spending the extra $82 on that treatment, you may not be able to remove that stain completely. Yeah. So you're going to do that when you're quoting. And you're going to write that in your quote, right? If you're going to install an antenna and the goal of that client was to get SBS crystal clear, and you say to them, I can install an antenna, if I install it this way, you still will get dodgy reception, hit and miss on SBS. If I put a booster something or other cable on the top, which is an additional $150, I guarantee you you'll get crystal clear SBS. And they say, so without the extra $150 booster thing, can I still get SBS? And you say, yes. And you say, it'll be a bit hit and miss. And they say, oh, well, how hit and miss? And you'll say, well, you know, what I'll do is I'll install the antenna. I'll show you what SBS looks like without the special booster thingy. They look at it. You're standing there. And if there's somebody like me, it always works when the guy's standing there, right? They will say, yep, oh look, that's good enough, I'm happy enough with that. Now you never wrote down any potential booster was available, you didn't write down that this was discussed, you didn't write down that it was declined by the client. And that client then rings our call centre and says, Freddie came and installed my antenna and I get rubbish picture on SBS. Right? The call centre will send that through, possibly as a complaint. Right? That's okay, just say they do. You can go back to your franchisor and say, yeah, look, I told them that I wasn't going to be able to get SBS crystal clear unless they had the booster, that's $150. I've got the quote, it's written on the quote, this, you know, did not include the booster. They only paid $250, they didn't pay the extra $150, it's crystal clear. That complaint will be removed because it's unfounded, right? But if you don't do any of that, and the client rings and says, I've got a crap picture on SBS, you've failed. That's all there is to it. They expected a good SBS crystal clear picture and you haven't delivered. So be really careful about that because you don't want to create complaints and you want to make sure that you go, if you have to return to a job, that they understand that you can return now and you can put the additional $150 booster on, plus an extra $70 call-out fee, and they're going to get crystal clear SBS. And if you've got a good client who sent you away in the first instance, they'll ring you and they'll say, yeah, I know you warned me of this, no problem, come out, I'll pay you the extra $150 or whatever. And they're happy to do it, and they're happy to pay it. So that's important to your income, because if you get that complaint and then you have to go back out there, you don't want to have to waste your time. And you don't have to want to waste your money in buying that extra piece to get SBS crystal clear, because that's going to be on you because you want to get the complaint. Sorry?
Quote's kind of like an income.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, it is.
So, you know,
Yeah.
if that, you can't really give them any more advice besides.
No.
Well, I wrote it here.
You've written it down, you've told me exactly what it is. In cleaning, vacate cleans are a clean that happens at an end of lease tenancy. In a vacate clean for your real estate agent to give you your bond back, there's a whole list of things that have to be done. Often the tenant who's trying to save money will say, don't clean the oven, I'm going to clean the oven. They do a terrible job of cleaning the oven. And then the real estate agent calls you and says, Jim's cleaning, you're useless, you didn't clean the oven. Now, if you do not write down that the quote excluded oven cleaning to be done by tenant, then our reputation's not good, because they think Jim's Cleaning just ignored cleaning the oven, because everybody knows that should be cleaned on a vacate clean. So be conscious to protect yourself, protect our good name, all of our good name, and make sure you don't have to return to do things twice, you know, when it's unnecessary. And that's how you're going to generate a solid income. That's part of your business plan, to not get those complaints coming in. I don't know why this is going off. So, okay. Lifestyle, quoting, payments. So the other thing just to touch on is, you know, we all know that we're here for lifestyle, and you know, just as much as anybody, I'm here to make sure that I live the lifestyle I want to live. I don't want to be on planes flying around the state, the country, to, you know, deliver events. I want to be sitting, working from my home office, able to take my kids to school and able to pick them up every day, get them to their school activities and do those things. That's what's really important to me. Don't lose sight of that in your business operations. It almost should be part of your business plan. If you are here for some of those same reasons, that you haven't been seeing your kids enough, or you've got things that you want to do, allocate the time in your week for your lifestyle choice. So if you've been a dad who's been working out there for years on end, and you have not been able to pick up kids from school, or not be able to take them to the footy or to their basketball training or whatever, then say on Wednesday from 4 to 6, that's the day that I leave to go to basketball training and footy training with my kids. Plan, and you can do that. There's no reason why you can't do it. You can't do that every single day, all day long, but you can do it so that it works in to give you a bit of a better lifestyle, and so that you're not working outrageous hours. We do know at the beginning and certain times you will work outrageous hours. Yesterday for me, my day and my phone call started at 7 a.m, and at 10 p.m. last night I was still sending text messages and having calls with my franchisees. It was a long, hard day yesterday. Combined with that, it was a long, hard work day, emotional day, crazy day. Right? And those days happen. So you need to take the time when you can. I'm owed a few days like that. I've had some good times. I've picked up kids from school, sat at swim squad for hours on end. I've done that, so I'm owed a few crazy days. Okay, so quoting, we've already touched on quoting as part of the other component. With quoting, you know, it is important to write your quotes down. Make sure they're written. Now, in the cleaning group, you get a duplicate pad. So if you're not very computer savvy or IT literate, you don't have to worry that you need to be. You can still write out a good old-fashioned quote. It's going to have the client's name on the top. There's room for you to put your banking details on it. And then you're going to write the quote out: 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, living areas, regular fortnightly cleaning, $140 for that particular address, whatever. You've written the quote out. When it comes time to invoice people to receive their payments, it is really important to be a legal invoice, a tax invoice. You must have your ABN on your invoice. So make sure your invoice template is always set up to have your ABN on it. It is a really good idea to make sure that you have your name and email address, your contact details on your invoice, because people may have queries, they need to contact you, right? And one of the best ideas ever is to have your banking details on your invoice so people can pay you. So I have received emailed invoices from a carpet steam cleaner who complimented a vacate clean that I did, and I wanted to pay him straight away, but he didn't have his banking details on his invoice, and he just didn't realise each time it went through his system the banking details were dropping off and not printing on the invoice. So make sure you have that clearly on your invoice. ABN, contact details, banking details. And also, your invoices must reflect GST. Okay. So GST, do we all understand what GST is? It's the tax that is held for the government. It's not our money, never was, never will be. We are only a holding facility for the government. And as a bookkeeper, feel free at any time to chime in on the GST discussion. Yeah. So if we were to go and do a job, because GST is something that you then get to claim back on your BAS. BAS stands for Business Activity Statement. And these are done quarterly. So the next BAS, Business Activity Statement, is due to be lodged at the end of March. You will have up until mid-April to lodge your business activity statement. Okay. What happens is any GST that you have collected, so if you have charged $1,100 for a job, $100 of that job is GST. And any GST that you have collected needs to be paid to the tax department in your business activity statement, because it's not your money. What also happens though, you are now a business owner. So anything that you purchase for your business that has GST on it, you are entitled to receive that GST back from the government. We all know that? Right. So if I'm going to go and clean up a garden and I'm going to charge them $1,100, we know that that $100 is GST. Am I writing big enough for everybody to see? It's because I'm blind as a bat. So now what's happened is you've invoiced your client and you've been paid $1,100, and you've got $100 that you've now got that you know you're going to have to give to the tax department. But in order to do this garden cleanup, you have used things that you have purchased. So you've been to Bunnings, and what have you purchased for a garden cleanup from Bunnings? Whippersnipper cord, yeah?
Bags.
Yeah.
Gloves.
Yep, bags, gloves. And so you've gone to Bunnings and you've made these purchases, and in a big garden cleanup you're going to have quite a bit of garden waste that you need to dump, and that's going to cost you $220 to dump your garden waste, right? So you've got your garden waste to dump. I actually don't know if it costs, I have no idea what it costs, but it is expensive. Yeah.
It's free at the moment in the narrow area until, what was it, 31st of March?
I think a lot of things are going to be free soon. So,
Not for commercial, no, only green waste.
so just say, for argument's sake, we've gone and we've spent, we know out of our $1,100 we have to spend $330 at Bunnings, at the tip, at wherever, okay? So if we take 330 and we divide that by 11, what does that equal? Right? So this is the GST we have just spent. So now what we can do is we can remove the GST we've spent from the money that we owe the tax department. So we now only owe them $70. Does that make sense? And if we have a full number, so if we want to quote somebody $330 and we want to write on their invoice that a component of that is GST, we divide the number by 11 and it will tell us what the GST is. To check that number, if we times that number by 10, it'll come back with 300. So this is a way we can check that we've calculated our GST correctly on our invoices. We divide by 11, we times it by 10. So when you write your invoice will look something like total GST on sales or something, and then total including GST. So it might be $300, 30, and then your total on your invoice is $330. Technically or legally, you should call out the GST amount. It should be shown separately on your invoice. I'm just wondering what's going on. See, what's going on with that? So does that make sense to everybody? Crystal clear? Are there any... I would love a quote to fix that.
$330.
Is there GST on that?
Depends. I'll take a copy instead.
And when you fix my computer, what exactly are you going to do for me?
Well, I'll make sure that it doesn't hibernate every 5 minutes. That's what it's set at.
Okay.
Write that down.
Yeah. Can I have that in writing? Okay. So that all makes sense. Good. If there's any questions, the bookkeeper in the room will be happy to answer them. Okay. So, payments. We've given them an invoice, right? And on our invoice we've been clear. Our invoice that has all our details on it, our ABN. We're clear about everything on there. We've pulled out the GST. We want our invoice to be paid. What are we expecting? We're expecting the money to turn up in our bank account. Have we given them a way to pay us the money? We've given them our banking details. So they might say, I want to pay by credit card. You're going to offer credit card? If you are going to offer credit card, there are credit card facilities that you can purchase from your bank. But my advice on that is that the bank, the actual machines that the bank have, you usually pay somewhere around $55 or $60 a month to have the machine. I don't feel that represents good value for money. I don't think the person will be here today, unfortunately, but there is a product out there called Square. Square is an app that you will have on your phone. So you download the Square app and you can purchase the little, I don't know what it's called. It's like the thing you plug into the top of your phone and you zap the card through it. You can purchase that from Officeworks. They're about $49, I think, 50 bucks. Square will transact that transaction for you. It will deposit the money in your bank within 24 hours. On most occasions, when I use Square, I've gotten the money by the end of the day, less than 24 hours. When you set up the app, you put in your banking details, so your business banking details will go in there. Once the transaction has occurred through Square, it gives you an option to put in the client's phone number or email address, and it will instantly send the receipt to them. So you've got a record of that transaction. Square will take 1.9%. If you swipe the card, it'll take 1.9% of the transaction. So my view is that's a very small amount of money on a $100 transaction to make sure you are getting paid right now. And it is worth that $1.90 it might cost you to not be worrying about, I have to follow up this client and follow them up and follow them up. Because every bit of follow-up you do, in my world, that eats into time with my kids.
And also cold.
Yeah. So it's, you know, I don't want to be wasting time following them up, right? So it'll send the receipt. If you don't have their card, so if you're doing it over the phone, which is the way I do a lot of things, so as an example, a franchisee I might sell a franchise and they might pay their deposit and they're doing it, they've called me and said, I want to pay a deposit because I want to go ahead. to buy my franchise, I might take a $3,000 deposit and I will type it in over the phone. If I do that, the fee is 2.2%. So it's 0.3% higher for not swiping their card. So weigh up whether that suits you or not, but it's convenient, it's easy, it goes straight into your bank account, there's a record of it, there's receipt that can be given. To me, that's a no-brainer. Square works.
Can you put it on an iPad?
Yep, anything, yep. Yeah, so any type of smart device can have Square on it. Yep. So you're getting your payments in. Now, as far as payments go as well, once you get your payment in the bank account, you've got to reconcile. And one thing that is actually quite tricky, and probably more so than other divisions, is tricky for mowing. You have a lot of mows at the same price. There'll be a consistent price, whatever it is, let's say it's $70. If people don't put their name, their address, their street number, something, you get all these $70 deposits in there. So be really switched on and try to make sure you get a system in place. And right from the beginning, you know that old saying, start as you intend to finish? Set up that expectation. Say to your clients, when you deposit into my account, I would like it deposited with the invoice number on the deposit. Or you may not work that way. Your head might not work that way. You might prefer that they deposit it with their street name or something. I don't know, they're, 15 Florizel rather than the number. But tell them what you want so that you get the deposits so that you can reconcile them more easily. If the invoice number is used, that's the smartest way to go, because if you are somebody who has a bookkeeping system, and a bookkeeping system may be any one of many, but the most popular are accounting packages called Xero, QuickBooks or MyOb. If you are getting an invoice generated through let's say through QuickBooks, and the invoice number is 1516, then when your client deposits that amount of money and put in 1516, it'll instantly marry to your bank statement and it will say that's been received. Now, what will also happen is that when that happens, just say for the second time, that particular client, Marion Smith, has deposited money, then it will recognise her and it will code her deposits to her. So it makes your life so much easier. That's with Xero, QuickBooks and MyOb. They will all do the same. So I use QuickBooks, and as I mentioned before, my husband and I keep our businesses quite separate. He uses Xero, right? Both of them do the same thing.
What about Jim's Jobs?
Jim's Jobs, now, that's being developed, and I believe that, yes, it will do something along those lines, where you'll be able to reconcile your debtors. Yeah, we said that in November. Jim's Job's really close. It is really close to going live, and it will have some facilities, definitely for invoicing, and so I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work. I don't know if it is going to link to bank accounts exactly, but I think it will, but I don't know for sure. You'd get a debtors reconciliation, so you'd be able to go and cross-reference it. Yeah. So what I do know works is Xero, QuickBooks and MyOb. I know that they work. There are other accounting packages out there, and there are packages that are cheaper, and there are things that you can get through your banks. I bank with Westpac, and Westpac have, I think it's called Biz Invoice, and that's linked into Westpac, and you can actually put your logo and everything on Biz Invoice through the bank. So that will definitely talk to your bank account. So if you are clued into this sort of thing, have a look at that and see if it's something that's going to work for you or suit your business. Okay, but invoicing is important, and nobody works for free. Well, your aim is not to work for free. You don't want to. But invoicing is super important, and the delivery method of your invoice is important. So David's delivery method back in the day was, we happened to stumble upon the fact that I had a same client as him, and I was talking about this woman in not a very favourable way. And he said, I know her, I've done work for her. And David has only ever had like 3 or 4 people not pay him, ever. And he said, she hasn't paid me. She still owes me $220. And I said, well, give me that invoice because I'm going to ask her for it. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. And I could tell, right? Oh, don't worry about it. There is no invoice, you know, like I was. And he said, yes, I wrote an invoice out. He was standing in the front garden and he said, I gave it to her son to give to her. And I said, her son? I said, aren't they 2 years old? Is there an older one? He said, no. He gave the invoice to the 2-year-old playing in the garden to run inside. Do you think the invoice made it to the client? You know, not likely. So work out an effective delivery method. If you are writing out an invoice, then you may be leaving it in their letterbox for them. You may be leaving it under their door. That's fine. But the most effective way this day and age is electronic invoicing. And it is also the most effective way to keep control of your debtors, if you can do it. If you can't do it, then you write out your invoice, you keep the duplicate copy, you keep them all bulldogged together, you take them inside on a weekly basis, you put them all down on an Excel spreadsheet, all the invoice numbers, the client names, the amount of GST, that's fine. You can do it. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's time consuming. It's also, human error plays far more part in that. So it's so much easier. I'm not a technology fan, but you know, it is so much easier to be able to just have your bank account talk to your system that's going to tick it off and say, yes, you know, that client has paid. And it's less stressful because there are days where you are sweating on it. You are wanting that client to pay. I actually never ever do a vacate clean without getting payment on the spot, on the day, either on the day or just before the job. And that is what I would preach to you in this room.
That comes from the person moving out the way.
Yeah.
The vacate claim.
Yeah.
Otherwise they vacated, you know.
Exactly, you don't know where they're going. Yeah. And 2 weeks ago, I broke my own rule and I was sweating on it for about 3 days. So what had happened was I actually made friends with a guy named James who owns a building company because he complained about one of my franchisees. He'd had a bad experience. And in talking to him, I thought he's an okay kind of guy, right? And I fixed James' bad experience and I said, in the future, if you want to have any kind of builder's clean done, then contact me directly and I will have one of my best franchisees do that clean for you and I will oversee it myself. Right? James called me and he said, got a clean. Builder's clean. I went and provided the quote. And it wasn't huge, but it was $650. I gave it to my new franchisee to do the job and I was paying her $530. And one of my old timers, he's very good at some window issues, and I said for the other, whatever it was, $150, come and do this bit of work on the windows for me. He said, no problem. I sent an email to James saying, here's the invoice, payment either before or on the day of the job. He said to me, no worries whatsoever, I'll pay it on the day. I didn't see James. I've only ever had conversations with him over the phone. And I called him that afternoon and said, job's done. He said, yep, I'm doing a walkthrough tomorrow with the client and I'm going to inspect the property at 4 tomorrow. I said, I didn't see the money in the bank account. I don't think you've paid the invoice. He said, I sent it to the girls to pay. And that's a line I don't like that much. And I said, okay, no problem. And I said, you know, James, I never usually do a job until the invoice is actually paid. He said, yeah, no worries, it's with the girls. They're going to pay it this afternoon. The money wasn't in the bank that day, it wasn't in the bank the next day. I texted James, he didn't get back to me. Now be conscious that this is actually last week and lots of world events are happening. Everybody's business was a little crazy. He didn't get back to me. So I then called him later that night, and he couldn't have been more apologetic. Told me he was so sorry, just the day was crazy, hadn't gotten back to me. Yes, the girls have transferred the money. But I didn't have any evidence of that because it was after hours and what have you. And I thought, oh, okay. But I still paid the franchisees that had done the job. So, because I thought, well, I've broken my own rule here. I take the hit, not them. So, fortunately, that money was in the bank account the next morning. But that's the first time I've ever done that. Now, I spent 3 days sweating on it, thinking $650 is a lot of money. You know, the franchisees were paid, and it would have been me that had suffered that loss. And I would have suffered that loss only because I was trying to do the right thing to get more work for my franchisees and protect our brand, because this guy had complained before. I wanted him to have a good experience. At the end of the day now, it's gold. He's called me. There's another job next week that he's going to have. And that'll go to another struggling franchisee. So it's all good. In your bookkeeping, page E. Do you know what that is? Tax withholding. So that is the amount of tax that you are going to be required to pay for your personal income tax, but also if you are planning to employ people. Is anybody here going to employ people right from the start? Yeah? So what will happen is that you will need to put tax aside for your employees. If you have an employee, and for yourself, if you have an employee, you are responsible for their income tax, and you are responsible for 9.5% superannuation. The government insists on that. Okay. You will also be responsible to make sure they have some work care, or work cover, or work safe. It's called different things in different states. Right. When you go in to the work safe or work cover website, it's very easy to look through the website. You may register your business and they will ask you for proposed income. You don't know what you're going to earn, so you need to just make something up. $100,000 a year is a fair estimate, and what they will do is they will charge you a quarterly amount for WorkSafe based on your estimated income. If you don't achieve your income, they pay you at the end of the year. So WorkSafe is something worth doing. Superannuation, you pay into a portal. Again, you ask your employees for their super fund, and then you will log into their super fund and pay into the portal for them on a monthly basis, 9.5%. Okay. So one thing that I like to caution people about, when you start your business, you start your business and you are going to have to pay personal income tax for yourselves. But the government don't know how much to charge you because you're new. They don't know what you're going to earn, right? So what happens is that your business, just say your businesses are starting in the start of what will technically be the 4th quarter. So you're starting in April, right? So if you go May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, so that's 2020. And then you've got Jan, Feb, March, April, May. I have to think about months. July, right? So this is 2021. That's July, right? So what will happen is here, the end of the financial year in 2020, a reconciliation is done, and the tax department reconcile what tax you personally will be responsible to pay for your personal income tax. Based on this, they'll do a very rough calculation, and it might be a small amount that you'll need to pay. It won't really be a true amount. So what they'll do, when you receive your BAS statement, the business activity statement for your business, the BAS statement is a document where you're going to record how much GST you need to pay on to the ATO, to the tax office. On that document, it often has a payee amount on there that is an amount of tax that you need to pay for your personal income tax. On your BAS statements, that will be blank because they don't know. So they're not going to charge you any tax. So here, you're not going to get charged any tax. Here, your accountant will come along and you will use an accountant to do this because it's the end of financial year. An accountant will come along and they'll estimate that you should have paid, let's say, $2,000 tax. Okay, so what the government may do is they may say, okay, $2,000 tax over these 4 months. The instalment for this business on a quarterly basis is going to be $400 a month, so therefore $1,200 might be the amount of tax that you're going to be reflected here, $1,200, right? Because they're basing it on what's known to them. And they're going to charge you that again here and again into here. But we're really hoping that in here, through here, we're earning upwards of what we earned here, and therefore this is actually not a relevant amount of money. It's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. You are not going to know that formally until here. So where are we now? We're in 2021, right? You're not really going to know that here. And then your accountant is going to mesh all your numbers together, and because you're part of Jim's group, you're going to have these massively successful businesses here, which means you're going to be paying more tax, and it means you're going to get to here, and he's going to say, oh, okay, you owe us $30,000, tax department's going to say, and you're going to say, holy smokes, I don't have $30,000. Is that about the sum of it in bookkeeping? Yeah. So, yeah, 30 was the number I was short last year. Yeah. Anyway, enough about me. I caution you about this number. So you can do a couple of things. You can pay higher instalments if you, I should go that way. You can pay higher instalments if you want to. I don't do that because the longer the money stays in my bank account, the better it is for me personally. And interest is so tiny, but still, it all adds up. Or you can just be smart and save your money. Okay? And when you save your money, you may have your business account over here, and we'll come back to use this account later. Okay, this is in my bank, Westpac, it's called Business One. And my Business One account, so you all go and open a business account, has a reserve account. This is an offset account to my Business One. And in my bank, it doesn't cost any more money. It's $10 for this Business One account. Can you not see this?
No, I was just laughing at the camera.
Oh.
Because the camera was still pointing at it. Sorry.
Oh, wake up. Sorry for those of you at home.
He probably sat through this course about 40 times.
It's all good. He does his business banking well. We were talking about it just before.
Yeah.
So with my bank, I pay $10 for this Business One account. That's Westpac. All banks offer a similar sort of thing. So just have a look at whatever bank you're with, set up a business account. What I will be doing is when I invoice people, my $1,100 is coming into this account because I invoiced them that. My $100 is going over to the reserve account because I know that's going to be GST. And that's adding up in my reserve account. So on a quarterly basis, my GST is coming out of here. what I will do is also save my personal income tax that will come over here, and on a monthly basis I'll put some tax in there. And I physically have to go in and transfer the money. You transfer between the two accounts. You can have as many accounts as you want to. Too many accounts would just be confusing.
Can you work out each month how much you should put in?
Yeah.
How?
I'm going to show you how. I'm glad you asked.
Thank you.
So we're going to go through a budget. In 5 minutes' time, we're going to put up the budget and we're going to run through how we will do that. Okay. So I'm just having to put in my password again. It's never done this before. Okay, so I've talked to you about page E work cover, you know about invoicing, we've talked about that. Super, insurances, public liability insurance. So, you are required by Jim's group to have public liability insurance for $10 million, and it is through Jim's insurance. And often I get asked the question, can I have it through another insurance agency? I already have some public liability insurance or whatever. The answer is no. Jim's insurance, Jim insists on you using Jim's insurance. And if you already have another public liability insurance policy with another organisation, then you can usually, like when I say usually, everybody I know of has received a refund back from that. So if you have still 8 months to run on that policy, they'll refund you the 8 months. Okay. Another common question that is asked is, do I have to pay super for myself? As a sole trader or independent business owner, proprietary limited company, if you are not setting yourself up as an employee in the proprietary limited company, legally you don't have to pay super for yourself. But I really suggest that you do pay super because, you know, we're all going to need it one day. But I also suggest get yourself established for the first 3 months. Work out what the lay of the land is. Get to the end of the first 3 months and then have a look at that and think, yeah, I think, right, I can afford to pay this amount of money. And then resume your super. Super is important though. Don't just dismiss it and don't put it on the never, never list. Okay. Yeah, you do get some benefits. So all of these other points, in one way or another, we've discussed. So I think what I'd like to do now is, if there are any questions around this, we'll go through any questions you might have, but then we're going to actually talk about specific budgeting, which is also known as cash flow. So do we have any questions around what I've just discussed? We are going to go through this business banking a little bit more. Are there any online questions? Everybody online is really quiet.
Yeah, we haven't had any comments. No questions at the moment.
Nobody's saying she's an absolute legend.
Not since the break. We can ask them.
Yeah, we can ask them later. Yeah, they probably are. What is it? Bold and the Beautiful or something?
What you made about tax. I was going to say, tax bill turning up.
That's quite.
It is valid.
Yeah.
And the tax office, they won't be understanding of the fact you don't have the money, they'll want their money.
Yeah, yeah.
So that example you gave about just having that reserve account, that's a really
It's valid.
simple plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everything I do, because while I stand here before you and I am the one that talks probably most about cash flow and money, it is actually probably, in my personal experience, my biggest struggle. Because I am more about being out in the field, being operational. I'm not as au fait with bookkeeping as you might think. So I try to make everything as basic for myself as I possibly can. So with bookkeeping, that records your financial transactions and it's part of the accounting process. A lot of people in the room often say that they're going to have their accountant do their BAS for them. I don't necessarily think that's smart unless your accountant's one of your good mates who charges you, you know, $25 an hour. Accountants, in my experience, are usually a far higher hourly rate than a bookkeeper, and a bookkeeper will get all of the information and gather it and bring it together so that down the track, once a year, you can hand that information to your accountant and they can make some good choices and decisions for you as a business to wrap you up at the end of the year. But throughout the year, lodging your BAS, you can either use an accountant, a bookkeeper, or you can do it yourself. Now, if you do go with an accounting package like Xero, QuickBooks, MyOb, those sorts of things, if you put the information into it, they will churn out a very accurate BAS statement. And that's what bookkeepers will do for you. Okay? So you can do that yourself if that's something you understand. I have a bookkeeper do it for me. All of my receipts are entered into QuickBooks by my bookkeeper, not by me. But I invoice everybody through QuickBooks. And the bookkeeper, she lives 2.5, nearly 3 hours away from me. She's not somebody I meet with. We do it all remotely. I send her all my receipts and she does it all, and it all comes back and she says, this is your BAS statement and this is how much money you have to pay. I think, that looks about right, let's pay that. And I'm happy with that because it's not something I understand all the detail around. And for that, on a quarterly basis, I pay $240. And my business is probably turning over a bit more than what yours will in the first year. So that, to me, to spend $240 a quarter, I'm happy with that. Okay. The accountant, they will help you prepare budgets and financial statements because if you are a proprietary limited company, you do need to provide some additional financial statements at the end of the year as well, and you can use an accountant for that. Okay. I'm going through bookkeepers, we've just talked about that. Cash flow. Cash flow is a statement that can be one of the most important tools in managing your finances. It tracks all the money flowing in and out of your business, and it can reveal payment cycles and seasonal trends. I was really impressed with one of my franchisees actually. We had a conversation, it was back in October, but he was saying, I've had all these different types of clients, yet my income is within $100 of what it was the same October last year. And so he was saying, it is better for my business to do this type of cleaning rather than this type of cleaning, because what it's done is it's kept my income the same, but my expenses are lower. I need less staff, or I need less chemicals, or whatever, his expenses were lower. Probably because his business was really tight and he was doing less travelling, because petrol is one of our biggest expenses in the type of game we're in. So he was using his cash flow and information to do that. This is what a standard sort of cash flow might look like. Anybody who is au fait with Excel, if you go into Excel and put in the words cash flow or profit and loss, it will actually give you pre-made budgets. So you can do that. If you are somebody who already has Xero or QuickBooks, then budgets can be created in those accounting packages. And I don't think I've mentioned, pretty much all of those accounting packages do like a 1 month free trial. So you can actually log on to them and have a bit of a go at QuickBooks, have a bit of a go at Xero, see which one you prefer. Don't go too far down the track and put too much information in, because you might just have to redo it if you're going to go with something else. But that's worth doing. So I'm just doing things a little differently today, so sorry about my back being turned to you. But in general, these are business-related expenses. I couldn't remember how to spell business then. So one of the things about business-related expenses is we all know we have to pay them, and they are going to be new to you. So let's start with some of the things that are a real certainty, unfortunately. So So, one of the things that's a certainty is that your gyms group fees are going to be a business related expense. I've put $1,000 on the board because when you start, while most of you may have a franchise fee that's around $670, $680, might be slightly more, might be slightly less, you will take leads when you start. And when you start, you usually take an increase of leads. So when you do that, your franchise fee may be higher than if you were not taking any leads at all. So I suggest that you budget around $1,000 for your franchise fees. Your public liability insurance, you might pay that annually. Your phone bill, so this is, oh by the way, monthly. This is what you may be paying out on a monthly basis to run your business. So materials, which depends on who you are. Now, I'm doing this based on a cleaning business. Okay, so again, this is just a cleaning business. And this is actually a real example from a couple that came to me and said they were having a little bit of hardship and struggling to actually pay their fees. And it wasn't that they were in hardship, it was that they were really appalling money managers. They just did not know how to manage their money. They said to me, they called and they said, we got our gym's fees and this week we have to pay $800 in fees, but we are only earning $800 this week. And I said, that doesn't make sense to me. We've been talking, they were people I talked to a lot, we've been talking pretty much every week, and like 3 weeks ago or something, you had like a $3,500 week. The week after that, I'm pretty sure you had like a $3,000 week. And you must be in your $800 week now. And she said, yeah. She said, we did. She said, but the week that I have to pay my fees, I'm only getting $800 and I can't afford my fees. Exactly. So when we went through it, I actually established that she actually had earned about $8,800 in that month, and that she actually didn't even know she had earned $8,800 in the month. She hadn't invoiced some people, she hadn't followed up on her invoices as well, she didn't have payments coming into her bank, and she was completely confused by what she was doing. She used to drive a bus for a living and had done that for about 40 years, and her husband worked in security, and he was just you know, basically a bouncer at hotels and pubs, and they had no business experience. They came over to my house and we actually spent about 8 hours, like, and I kid you not, they arrived at like 10 and left at 7 or something, on a 38-degree day where my family was all in my neighbour's pool and I was there at the table going through budgets, and we worked out a budget for them. So this, to some extent, is how their budget looked in a cleaning business. They did have a bookkeeper, which was $40. They allowed some printing costs, even though you all receive a package that will include business cards and things. In your business, it's a good idea to put some money aside for these types of things. Vehicle, so they just have one little car, so their insurance for their car on a monthly basis, they needed to put away. Servicing for their car, and that included rego, I think. On a monthly basis, they had 40. They didn't have any staff, so they didn't have any work cover costs. They banked with Westpac, so their banking fee was $10 for their business bank account. But anyway, some of these numbers, because I'm doing it more on the fly, don't really add up, but it was $2,020 was what we found they needed to have to run their business. Okay, so there is a few vague things in there that aren't quite right, but basically $2,020. If you were, say, gym skip bins, I imagine the cost would be far greater than that, because you've got your yard, you've got to keep your skip bin in. If you were fencing, it would be far higher, because, you know, on any one occasion you may be buying $5,000 worth of timber to build the fence. There will be different scenarios for everybody. But what I'm trying to establish is a general break-even number. It's what I call the magic number for your businesses. And you should know your numbers. When I worked in the corporate world, I worked for a shocker of a managing director, not a particularly kind personality, and he would say, do you know your numbers? And I would run multiple venues. So at one point I was running all the 3 zoos in Victoria, the Melbourne Sports and Aquatics Centre, Etihad Stadium, Rod Laver Arena, and I would have to go and say to him, yeah, Etihad's going to turn over 55,000 this week. We're going to see a drop of about 28,000 to the bottom line, and Labor's going to run at 34%. And he'd say, oh, how's MSAC going? And I'd have to know MSAC as well. And so I grew up in this environment where, or you know, in my working career where I had to know my numbers. And I'm actually really thankful for that experience now, because I always know our financial position. I always know what's in the bank. I don't stress over it and I don't, you know, mull over it, but I always have a handle on what's outstanding and what isn't. Okay. In their private costs, so that's what it's going to cost to run their business, but private costs for their home, they rent their home, so that was $2,000. They have some contents insurance, which was $60. Food, this is actually a while ago now, they spend $1,000 on food. I would say they probably spend more on that now. Clothing, I know I do with a 13-year-old swimmer, my God. Haircuts, we all laugh at this. Haircuts, $10. And that's apparently for Cliff to just have a clipper go over his hair. Their utility costs, again, we actually went through every single bill they had, and I reconciled each 12 months of their utility costs. They have some medication, it's only $20 because it's subsidised. They don't have private health insurance. Anybody got private health insurance? It's just gone up. I'm outraged by that. School fees, $50, and this is on a, you know, monthly basis. And entertainment, we had $400, that was just to go out for a pizza every now and then, and they had some kids basketball or something that they paid for quarterly. So when they added that up, that was $4,160. So basically what we know is that they need to make sure that on a monthly basis their business needs to make $6,180. That's their magic number. Does everybody have a magic number? Everybody's number is going to be different. In my house, on a weekly basis, our magic number, hold on to your hats, is just shy of 10 grand. Because everybody's home is different, functions differently. Everybody's business commitments, you know, we have leases on vehicles, we have different styles of equipment, this, that, the other, right? So projected income here, okay, so I truly believe that it is very obtainable, reasonably easy to make $2,000 a week in the cleaning business if you're one person working alone. So what our projected income is $8,000. What we need to do, and what we all know, is if we get $8,000 of our revenue, income, revenue, top line in, that's including our GST. And we know that money is not ours, never was, never will be. So first of all, we've got to divide that by 11, and we've got to take our GST off. And that's going to bring down our income to 7,272. Right? So we need to know that. And then we need to know that when we take away our essential living, we're going to have $1,092 left in the bank. And what haven't we done yet? Paid our own tax. So remember that. Now, how are we going to get to our projected $8,000 income target. Does anybody have any questions before I keep going? Okay, so what we're going to do is my husband, he loves a little slogan. We're going to have, on a weekly basis, we're going to say that we need to have Fortune $400 days. Okay? So, in order for a cleaner to have a Fortune $400 day, how many jobs do I have to do? 2? I do. 2's fine if they're $200 jobs. But on average, if we're getting around $99 average, we might be saying we're doing 4. Or we're going to do 1 vacate instead. That's going to give us possibly $550. So we're around 4 jobs as a cleaner or a good vacate clean. If we're carpet steam cleaning, we're probably around the same. If we are mowing and we're only mowing, we're about here, 7 jobs. If we're skip bins, I reckon we probably make it in our first bin delivery, but I think our expenses are far different. Right? So, what can we do in our business planning, which we're doing after lunch? Have a think about it. What can we do here? And I talk a lot about David's business, about the mowing. So if he had 7 $70 jobs, 7 sevens, what's that, 49. So we only need 6 to make 420. Okay, so if we had 6 $70 jobs in there, we can run around between jobs, or we can say, we know we can do extras on these and not do these, prune the roses and do a hedge, drop some mulch in here, I don't know, do something to the fence on here, and, you know, do something else here. We have potential that we could increase our revenue on those days by $320 if we wanted to, and we'd be taking home our 714 is 2003, what's that, $600. So we're now going to $600. Once you hit your Fortune 400, you've got to work out how to get to Fortune $500 days or Fortune $600 days. We now do Fortune $2,500 days. How did we do that? You know, we gave incentives to the staff, we changed the model. He does more landscaping, deck building, good money in building decks. Don't go and build decks if you live in our area. And, you know, we changed our business model. But we couldn't do that in the first 6 months because we have to, first of all, put the plug in our business, make it stable and know what we're doing. And we have to learn. Don't go trying to run when you can't crawl, but have a plan on how you're going to run down the track. That's really important. Is that making sense? We're going to break for lunch at 12, and I know Donna from bookkeeping is going to chat to you for only about 5 minutes, I think. Yeah, so I've got another few minutes with you where I just want to then run through some of the things that you probably already know now. So, based on our bank over here, the banker Nicole Wood, we actually have a friend who started the Bank of Cyprus. What a clever guy. And he sold it. Like, how crazy is that? So Jim's fees, $1,000. They're going to be paid on a monthly basis. Your money comes in every week. Is that a smart thing to put in the reserve? So, when you do your weekly banking, transfer $250 in here for fees. This goes down. We've already lost $100. Now we've lost another $250. Now we're down to $750. Okay. But let's just say somebody paid us another $1,100. So now we're happy again. Okay. Public liability insurance, it's something we pay annually. Some of you may choose to pay it monthly, by the way, and you can. It's slightly more if you pay monthly, but it could suit you better. I'm going to be there in the right place. So that camera, you better be awake. So we've got our $40 public liability. Phone is paid monthly. That could be something you might like to put away. You might like to put petrol into that other account, although that's something I probably wouldn't do because you've got a credit card associated with this account. You're going to put petrol in the car and you're going to just zap it out of this account. That's easy to do. But when you work out on a monthly basis what is the number you want to save over here, you'll just say at the end of every week, I want to save $500. And you'll take out your $500, this will go down, and that's what's going to be left. And that is quite possibly going to be your happy news. Right? And then what you're going to do is you are not going to get this money contaminated by your home life, by buying groceries or a slab of beer or whatever it is you might want to do. You're going to, nice and cleanly for you and your bookkeeper's sake, take that out, bypass there and go and put it all into your savings account. If you've got a mortgage, you would put it in your mortgage account, perhaps, and you're going to say, I don't know, $1,000 is what I'm paying myself. There's my $1,000. I take my different credit card out. I'll go to Woolies, I buy my groceries, and it comes out of here. Once that money has left here and gone into here, what's happened to this now? It's taxable. You're now going to pay tax on that money in that account because that is your income. Does the Nicole Wood School of Banking make sense? Excellent. There's usually about 3 or 4 questions at this point. No? Must have done a better job today. It might be because they were all watching on the camera. Okay. So usually I would go into a little bit of business stuff now, but because we're shaking up the day a little bit, I actually am going to be coming back to you after Mike does a bit on contracts after lunch. So what we'll do is we'll hear from Donna on bookkeeping, and then we're going to end up breaking for lunch and yeah, be back in here. So this is Donna from bookkeeping. Oh, sorry.
Hi guys, okay, no pressure, so I don't normally have to have a microphone and I don't have to normally follow Nicole, so no pressure. Let me reiterate everything Nicole's told you as being, if you can do that, you will be so successful. Unfortunately, I don't always see them follow Nicole's instructions, and they don't normally come and talk to a bookkeeper prior to being in a bad place, similar to Nicole's example. So I'm Donna. I'm a franchisee, the same as you guys all are going to be. I joined bookkeeping probably 3 years ago. Normally Lloyd talks, or occasionally I talk, but Lloyd's stuck over in Perth, and if we let him in, they're not going to accept him back. So, so you've got me today. Look, my experience with Jim's been wonderful, but what I've also seen is all the great information you get given here and then what happens to it once you get into the real world and you start running and you're trying to mow 7 people in a day or clean your 4 people's houses in a day. A couple of the hints that the Jim's bookkeepers want to make sure you're aware of, which lines up perfectly with what Nicole's told you, is make sure you have a separate business bank account. I see so many people come to me and it takes me probably 3-4 times longer because they didn't, either they didn't take the time to set up a business bank account or they didn't want to pay an extra $10 a month, but they're going to pay me an extra 4 hours a month to separate all their pizza purchases, all their video hire, not that we do that anymore, but all that stuff out of their business account. So to save $10, they're going to pay me an extra 4 hours a month, which is fine by my cash flow, but probably not yours. The other thing they don't do is set up their reserve and budget for their fees, their GST. And unfortunately, as a bookkeeper, I see them come to me in a really bad place where they're behind in their fees now, they're behind in that, and they haven't even figured out what their GST bill is yet. And unfortunately, we're all going to have to pay that. Two people that you're going to have to pay is your gyms and your ATO. So that's really important to do those two things. You will save yourself, whoever's doing your bookkeeping, be it yourself or a bookkeeper, a private bookkeeper, your wife. A lot of people will tell you here when I introduce myself, hi, who's doing your bookkeeping? Oh, my wife. Yeah, if you want to stay married, set up another bank account, all right? She's going to love you for it. At least then all your expenses that come out of here, she can code them. And this bit here too, when Nicole said, transfer one lump sum across into your savings, that can save you could save your wife an hour's work just because she doesn't have to work out where all those $50 went. Also the same with this, transfer in lump sums, saves yourself a heap of work. All right, two really, really important things to do. So Jim's bookkeeping, like, we're here to help. We're pretty obliging people and we really love our jobs. We're sort of we were all the nerds at school who love numbers, love to talk and share that information, even if you're not even a customer. So we've come, you know, Dean's down there at the moment. He's happy to take any numbers of anyone who wants a call from a Jim's bookkeeper to discuss what your personal circumstances will be. They'll call you potentially next week and the lead gets through to Lloyd. And we'll help you. We'll explain, you know, this stuff, how it's going to work for your circumstances, because we're all different. We all come from different divisions and we've got a lot of experience talking with all the different divisions, the fences, so we understand their cost of goods is completely different to a cleaner, mowers as well. Fuel tax credits, who's organised fuel tax credits? You know, did you know how you get them? Do you know how much they're worth? Do you know the easy way to get them? That sort of stuff. We can help you with all that. And the gyms bookkeeping have a offer to all the gyms currently, basically for the cost of a coffee a day. So if you go and purchase a coffee from your local coffee shop for $5, that's all the gym's bookkeeper's going to charge you for every day to look after every part of your book, which includes your BAS statements and everything else. And at the moment, the bookkeepers, we're currently in a place where we're across every stimulus package. Welcome to my world. I've been in Webinar City, looking at every stimulus package that the government's bringing out. What does it mean for each of my clients? Who can get what? And that's sort of the support the gym's bookkeepers are doing for all our existing clients and all our future clients as well. So yeah, that's just a couple of the really important things, but do yourself a favour, listen to Nicole, she knows what she's talking about. All this stuff is detrimental to your business and just success of your business. So if you do that, you will be successful with or without the support of a bookkeeper. If you follow some of this basic stuff, that's really important. All right, so we're down at lunch. So when you get your lunch, I don't know how many of the bookkeepers are down there, but yeah, please be aware of all our personal space at the moment, but we'll give you any advice, take a number and get someone to call you next week. And potentially offer whatever service that might suit your business. Has anyone got any questions? No? Is everyone set up their business accounts? No? Everyone set up a GST account? No? No. Oh, yeah, there you go. We've got one superstar up in the corner. He's a winner. But yeah, guys, we're here to have ourselves in and we're supporting all our businesses through it at the moment. So,
quick question.
Yeah.
In regards to all the stimulus stuff that the government's offered, how is it really beneficial? Are we going to see any benefits in regards to the business that we have? Like, are we being profit in any way?
Every business structure is slightly different, all right? So the main stimulus packages that are out there at the moment, a lot of them are around employees.
Yeah.
The one that potentially, and I imagine on day one, you're not going to have a boatload of them, but probably the biggest important one for you guys, which is why you need your bookkeeping up to date come the 30th of June, is the instant asset write-off rules. So they've increased them dramatically, and you are currently purchasing a lot of assets when you're on your gym's venture. So that one's going to be really important for you to make sure you've got that all documented correctly for your come accountant time. All right, that's the big one at the moment for you guys. But there's like a new one every other day at the moment. But we're keeping across them as best we can.
Yeah.
Just got a question from online. What are the fuel tax credits?
Fuel tax credits are, they're connected to your BAS statement, so you apply for them when you submit your BAS, and it's a certain amount of money per litre that you put into equipment that's used off the road. So for mowers, it's their mower, their whipper snipper. For fences, it's the post hole diggers. For the bobcat people, it's the diggers and that stuff. So it's a credit you apply for there. There's a certain way to track how much you can claim. So currently it's around the 40 cents per litre. So it's not per dollars, it's not how much you spent at the servo. And you need to distinguish the amount you spent at the service station between your car, because you can't have it for your car. You can have it for trucks over 4.5 tonne, which is a different one again. So you need to be tracking it properly. But yeah, so it's, hopefully that explains it. Is there any mowers here? Yeah, did that make sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. I think so. I think so.
Cool. Okay, you set up down there?
Yeah, the guys are set up.
Okay.